Previously on
Connor's Crazy Countdown.
Hello everyone, I've already recorded this video once, but it went so badly that I've decided to record it again. Okay, welcome back. Right, so we left off here at Alcazar, something or other his name was. Right, next we've got a character who I find quite interesting. So this is Milo Pressman. Now, I think this guy was in season 1 or 2. I might be wrong, but he was weirdly in it and he was hardly a big character. Then he came back in season 6 and he was in it quite well. I think it was season 6 anyways. Yeah, maybe it was. But yeah, and he had a thing for... Can I remember her name right now? He had a thing for one of the people at the work, and the love story with the two of them was kind of sweet, and then he stood up for her at one point and things went wrong, but they went wrong and it was so good. And literally this guy has no field training and he protected Marlon Bauer. What a hero, what a true to heart hero. So that's why he's a decent character. Right, next we've got Matheson, right, Megan Matheson, right? So this is Megan Matheson, and she's just a kid, right? She's just a kid actress. So it always impresses me how good some children actresses and actors are. I mean, obviously they probably have years of training, but for their age and that, like, she does a really good job. So the character is the daughter of Gary and Carla, and things have to happen that involve Kim a lot, and she's just totally great at it. Like, so much bad happens to this little girl, but Kim stays with her, and Megan does a great job throughout this. So good, it's more decent towards the child actress, basically. Next we've got, I should have looked. This is another president's wife. Well, sort of. It's not a president; it's a prime minister's wife. Alama Motobo. I might be mispronouncing that, but that's how it's spelled. So Alama Motobo. So this is the wife of the prime minister. Oh great, I didn't even check what his name is. Something Motobo. Matobo or Uli. No, it's Uli. It's something Uli. Uli Matobo. And her and her husband get put through hell, and eventually she basically does the bad thing in a sense, but it's actually a good thing that saves their life. So good for her. She's a decent character. Like, for what she does, she's just a prime minister's wife, and she does it well. So she's decent in that sense. Right. Next, we've got Kate Warner. So that's the sister to Marie and the daughter of Bob. And I wish she was in it more. She was only in it for one season, and she was in it at the start of the next season. But she definitely deserved to be in it more. She was a great, good, strong character. And once again, a love interest of Jack. Are you keeping count? Yes, we're on about 700 right now. Can you blame him, though? There's a lot of good-looking characters in 24. Anyways, Kate, at the start of this season, didn't really trust Marie's husband or fiance, so that already set her bad with Marie. And when she found out about Marie, it was just, it was great. Like, she totally loved her sister, and she was there for her sister, but it was just sufferable what happened in that. Right. Next we've got, this is the daughter of Omar and the other Hassan. I can't remember her name right now, but yes, she again is one of these people that had an unfortunate time, and she had to do something really risky, but she was very heroic about it, and she again was a very likable character. Maybe not one of my favourite children of leaders, but she's still a decent character. Like, what I mean by that is, I say, like, the president has a son, presidents have daughters, so this is the prime minister or leader or whatever that had a daughter. Not my favourite of leaders' children's, but she's alright, and I really like her as the character she is. Next, we've got Larry Moss. So Larry Moss is the leader of the FBI in Season 7, or that department of the FBI at least, and has a thing for Renee Walker, which kind of didn't really go anywhere. But I think the first time I saw this season I hated him, but then every other time I've watched it again, he's just a guy doing his job, and I don't hate him at all. He's decent, like I said, decent. And when things seem to go wrong for Renee, he's totally falling apart, and it's kind of sweet to see him in that sense. Next, we've got, can I get this right? There we are, Hamri Al-Assad. That's why I thought it began with an A. So this is Hamri Al-Assad. Another terrorist in a sense, but this guy in the season he was in was not a terrorist at all. He was totally doing good things and trying to reconcile himself, but that ended up in him having a huge mishap which ruined Wayne Palmer in a sense, and made the vice president question him and make him seem as if he's the bad guy, but he's actually not. But Jack literally risked his life to save this guy, and he stood by Jack a little bit after that. He was a good guy. Like, it does not approve what he did in the past, even though there's like that doesn't appear at all. But actually, no. This is the guy that Jack had to stand beside when Curtis was going crazy, basically. This is the guy that did horrible things to Curtis in the past. But in this season that he was in, he was a very likeable guy in a sense, like, as far as a bad terrorist sort of guy can go, I mean. But yeah, he was a decent character in this. Right, next we've got Julia Milliken. So she was a really, she's not a bad person, but what she did was bad, right? She cheated on her husband with Wayne Palmer, of all people. So that kind of messed up David Palmer's presidency, which made Alan Milliken, that's her husband, try and destroy that, because Alan had a good relationship. But Julia was the messer-upper of this whole thing in a sense. And Wayne, like, Wayne can't be innocent too, it was both of them. But she does a heroic thing in the end. Well, heroic is not really the right word, just more, there was a big bad thing that was happening and she put an end to it, and sad things happened to her and the person that she was with. But again, it was a good thing that happened in a sense. But also, again, I'll say this is another pretty lady. Yeah, so Julia Milliken, it was sad what happened with her and the person she was spending a lot of time with. I'm not talking about Wayne, I'm talking about the other person. You have to see if you want to know who I'm talking about, but because she got involved with this person in the first place, things went bad. So, again, kind of her fault. Right, next it's Hector Salazar. So, this is the husband of, or the husband, boyfriend, whatever, of Claudia. You get the point. So what I like about this season is Jack teams up with him and his brother absolutely hates Jack at this point. Like, he does not trust him. He wants to kill him. But Hector stands up for Jack, and he's like, I totally trust him. Yet by the end of the season, it kind of flips roles, and he hates Jack, and so on and so forth. But yeah, he's definitely not one of my favourite terrorists, right? He's okay, but at this is a much earlier season, so it's kind of like the really, really big bad had not happened yet. So at this point, he was a good terrorist. Makes sense? Yeah. Right. Next, we've got Henry Taylor. So this is the first gentleman and the only gentleman in the White House, basically. What I mean is the first and only first gentleman. Right. So yeah. So this is Alison Taylor's husband and Olivia Taylor's dad, and Robert Taylor's dad? Roger, right? And he's definitely a decent character. Like, I cannot say he's a legend or a great character. Like, he's what happens to him is horrible, but he is so brave in how he comes back from it, and he's strong, and he has to, like, it just keeps bad happening to him, and he has to keep going and staying strong for his son and for his wife and for his daughter, and he does a very good job of that. So big decent guy. Right, next we got a very interesting character, because this guy was in 24 twice as two different characters. I mean, the weird thing is they totally look the same, right? Because they're the same person. So this version is Gibran Alzarian. Gibran Alzarian, who has a brother who, the two of them get involved with stuff or something, and he's very brave about how he deals with it, because this is another person who knows the person's being bad, and they have to catch them in the act. You get me? So he knows what he's getting himself in for, but he's being brave about it. His other version will be coming up soon. His other version was much earlier on. His name is Safa. Doesn't seem that as interesting, if I'm being honest. So yes, so this is the only character, in a sense, as far as I'm aware, that comes back twice in the season as two different characters. I find that very bizarre. Like not 24, CSI has done it a lot too, but there's way more seasons of that, so it's kind of more spaced out. Right, next, I know this guy's name. What's his name? Ira Gaines. I knew it was Gaines. I knew it. Right, so this is Ira Gaines, who is another bad terrorist guy, and another guy that just oozes evil, and I love him for that. Like, out of the decent people, this is one of the guys that I might be persuaded to take up to great. He's just, just oozes evil, and I love it. It's awesome. I can't really remember what he does, and if he did do stuff, I'm not going to say what he did. But anyways, next we've got Roman Hector Alazar. Is it Alazar or Roman Alazar? This is Hector's brother, right? And he, like I said, he hated Jack at the start, and then he sort of liked him, but then he hated him again. It was chop and change, basically. But this guy was awful as well, and it was great that he was awful. He was a great bad guy. And if you recognise him, he was also a bad guy in Fast and Furious. He was the guy in charge of, like, the mechs. Or was he even a bad guy then? I don't even know. He got ripped off by the Fast and Furious crew. He was the guy, the Mexican in charge of the bank or something. I don't really keep track of names. But yes, so this is Roman Alazar. Yeah, and he was a great bad guy. Next we've got, so this is Peter Kingsley, and he and Sherry had a thing going on, not a love thing, but he was a bad guy and Sherry was totally working with him at the time. That's what made her an awful person. But Sherry in the end helped Jack to stop this guy, and they did, basically. So as far as terrorists go, or bad guys go, this guy was alright, decent. Next, Nadia Yasser. Right, so this is Nadia Yasser. She was the love interest of Milo Pressman, and there was a scene in this where terrorists had come into CTU or something like that, and Jack told Nadia his idea that they were going to stop them, and the best thing was that although she did not have strength on her side, in a sense, her and Jack did a great job in stopping them, in a sense, and she was very brave about it. I mean, like, literally, she was fighting a guy there. She was doing everything. She was like, Jack had taken out, like, 3 guys at this point, and yet she was still there going, But then that, for her, was very brave. And I mean, in the background, Morris was doing things too. Right. Next, a very interesting character. This is Paul Rains, right? So this is Audrey Rains' ex-husband, and at the start, again, this is a guy I was absolutely hating, but then as the series went on, I was loving him in the end, and what happened to him was horrible, but it had to be done, and it just affected Audrey and Jack's relationship at this point. Like, what had to be done, but it was just awful to watch. Like, poor Paul. So a decent character there. Next, we've got Mike Novick. Mike Novick, the guy that played Mike Novick. Again, this was another guy that was in CSI. He was kind of a Catholic sort of preacher type guy or something. In this, he was for a while David Palmer's second-hand man, and then he was President Logan's second-hand man. And when he was Logan's, like, you loved him a whole lot more. Like, when he was David Palmer's, you hated him, but then when he came back, it was such a lovable sight, basically. Like, he was there. Him, Aaron, and I can't even remember her name right now, but the three of them, the First Lady, right? The three of them, it was just the best thing to have these three on the good side trying to stop Logan. It was awesome, and yeah, he was great at it. Next, we got Renee Walker, another love interest of Jack Bauer's, and she came in at season 7, and she came back a couple of times after that, I think, or once or twice. I didn't really like her at first, but she's kind of grown on me a bit. She does a decent job most of the time. She was hating Jack at a point, but then she obviously ended up as his love interest. That was after Larry Moss, of course. But yeah, a very likeable character in the end. Well, likeable, I don't know if likeable is the word, just strong. She's actually one of the only love interests of Jack that can fight, in a sense. Does that make sense? Like, she's there. Like, don't get me wrong, all of Jack's love interests have been strong, but she's part of the FBI, so she has training. Like, she's strong and she fights and she's Next, we've got Tim Woods. Tim Woods is like another advisor to Alison Taylor. He's got a pretty smooth voice, very likeable. See, something I can't say much about. Like, they do their job. They're a good character. They're a good thing. So, yes. Right. This is Yusuf Ayuda, and he wasn't in it much. He was only in it for one season, but at the start, you were kind of thinking, this guy's not that good, this guy's a bad guy, and he was just, what was funny was the whole of CTU wanted him to stay out of the way, and then he went and he helped Jack, and he saved Jack, and he was very brave, great hero, and it was so totally sad what happened to him, and totally, like, things like, the thing that happened to him happens to a lot of people all over the world nearly daily, and it's just horrible what happened to him. Yeah. Right, next we got a despicable person in a sense. This is Roger Stanton. So, like Sherry, a person with a lot of power that just kind of abuses that power. He did something behind the president's back which cost a lot of lives. There's one scene in this where he's talking to at the time it was David Palmer was the president. So at a point he was talking to David Palmer, and then when the clip got played back, the part where he announced everything he had done had been cut out, and he was like sitting there like, I think David Palmer's losing it and all, and you're just like, God, Roger, I hate you so much. But again, it's a person you love to hate, so therefore he's a decent character. Now this is a character who I'm like, I kind of wish she was in it more. This is Sandra Palmer. This is the sister to David and Wayne, and she was only in one season. That's why I'm like, why was she not in it more? Also, if you recognise this actress was in Daddy Daycare. She was the mum in Daddy Daycare. So that's where I'm like, she's a very pretty lady again, but she's very odd. Like, Wayne and David are these strong people, but every time I've seen her, all I can think of is Daddy Daycare, and I'm like, I can't really take her seriously. But at the same time, she had to make a dreadful call, and she did the best. She did what she could, and it ended up in things going kind of badly, but they were the right things to do, and she stood strong, and she was a hero. Yeah. But again, she's the sister of two of the presidents of the United States that have been in multiple episodes, so why was she only in one season? I know that she probably only got signed up a little while, but still, it's like, there wasn't even any reference to her in the other seasons. So I'm like, why? Right, this is next Victor Drayson. This is a terrible terrorist that I love. So this is the father to Alexis and whatever the other, Andre, right? What he does to one of his sons is horrendous, but he's kind of similar to Philip Bauer in that sense. But yeah, he's a guy that you absolutely love to hate, and he's terrible at what he does. I mean, terrible at what he does, which I mean he's good at. Does that make sense? Just a bad guy, an all-round bad guy. Right, next, this is Vladimir Bierko. So this was the bad guy, terrorist guy around the same time as Christopher Henderson. He actually accomplished quite a lot, and like Faid thingy whatever, and actually quite a lot like Navid Marwan, he actually managed to accomplish a lot. Like I mean he managed to escape multiple times. Like his face was nearly burnt off or whatever, and he managed to escape. Like you got to kind of give him praise for that. But despicably evil and great at being despicably evil. Right, this guy is another dad that did horrible things to his son. This is Sergei Bajaev. I think this guy was in season 1 or season 2 or something. I can't click when, but he's like kind of like a mob boss in a sense. Like he's got that vibe about him. I think he was actually the same season as Ira Gaines, if I'm right. But he was awfully terrible, and I really loved it. Good on him. Alright, next terrorist. This is Stephen Saunders. So Stephen Saunders actually used to be a good guy, and he used to work alongside Jack, and then things had gone wrong and things, and then he came back and he was evil, and he was a totally good evil. This is another guy that has an awesome voice, a totally sophisticated evil voice, so good for him. And yeah, not much else to say for him. He's got one of those names that's a SS, so he's got whatever. I'm sure he was there, Taran Farouche. Now I think this guy was actually this guy's bodyguard or something, and I'm actually trying to remember this right now. He was bad, and then he wasn't bad, then he was bad. I really liked this guy's journey in a sense. I did like this guy's journey. Like, although he was bad, I liked him. I did really like him. He's a very likeable character. But yeah, he was Omar Hassan's bodyguard in a sense, and a bad guy. But I think he was a good guy. I have to watch. I'm going to watch that season soon. Anyways, I'm still on season 7 just now. Right. We're on to the biggest category of all, and then it's the last one. Right. So this is the OK category. A lot of people in this one, so let's get on with it. This is Derek Huxley. So he wasn't in it for very long, but he was kind of like Jack's adopted son for a while. He didn't have a clue what Jack was about, because he hid it from him, of course. But once he found out, he kind of trusted him a lot more, and then he ended up wanting to save Jack, but ended up messing up his whole routine. He was a great teenager actor, good guy, but definitely not as good as Josh, but still a decent enough OK character. That's why he's here. Right, next we've got David Emerson. Right, so this is David Emerson, and although this guy didn't really do much or seem to do much, whatever, without this guy, Tony would not be in 24 in a sense. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, in a certain season, Tony would not have survived if it wasn't for this guy. So yeah, I've given praise for that. Apart from that, I kind of hated him in a sense, but not enough to put him in the bad category, because he was still a good guy in that sense. A bad guy, but a good guy. Right. Next, this is Erin Driscoll, so another leader of 24, and one of my least favourite leaders of 24. She just, she seemed miserable the whole time, but then you found out about her daughter, and in a sense you can maybe understand why she's miserable all the time. I'm not saying her daughter's bad, it's just her daughter has schizophrenia, and that's a very challenging condition, and she had to put up with these phone calls from her neighbours talking about how bad her daughter had been, or how she'd had another attack and things, and then horrible thing happened to her daughter and she totally broke down, and it's just, at that point you feel for her a bit, but at the same time I still am glad she left at that point. I did not like her. Like, she didn't trust a lot of her staff, or she interrogated one of her staff to the brink and then found out she was innocent. Like, oh, she was awful in that sense. Right, now this is Alan Milliken. So this is the big honcho in that story with that, and he was threatening David Palmer, saying he was going to do this stuff and say this stuff and whatever else. So I hated him for that reason. I didn't really like this character at all, but at the same time, an okay character for what he did and how he acted and all that. Next, we've got Diane Huxley, so this is Derek's mum. And again, guess what? Another love interest of Jack Bauer's. But yeah, all I can remember about her really is that she said Derek, like she screamed Derek. No, she had a lot more to play in that role. She was in 24. She was in CTU for a while, and she did other things. And yes, she was just a character that played a role, did the role, and did the job well. Next, we've got Jim Ricker. This guy was kind of like an undercover, not undercover, but kind of, is underground the right word? He supplied weapons to Jack. I think he helped out Jack a lot. And when I look at him, he kind of looks a little bit like John Goodman in a sense. That's what I think of when I see this guy. But yeah, he helped Jack through things. I think he was kind of had a bad side to him, but he wasn't bad. He did good things, right? Next, we got somebody I absolutely hate, but a good person that I hate. I mean, a bad person I hate is Dana Walsh, and this was the love interest of Cole Ortez. She was a bad girl, bad person. But she was good at being bad, so big praise to her for that. Next, we've got another girl, another lady that I think is incredibly pretty. I'm very sorry if this freaks you out, but I do like a lot of the characters. This is Carrie Turner. Now, Carrie Turner as a character, she was awful in a sense. Like, she was married to Michelle's husband. No, she was married to Michelle's brother, and she was horrible to him, and for that reason, like, Michelle hated her. This was her mortal enemy, and they had to work together, and it was just like two cats fighting or whatever. It was just horrible. She was a nasty person, but again, a very pretty lady. So that's why she's okay. No, she's okay because she was an okay character, not just because she's pretty. Right, this is, what's his second name? Daniel Bess, right? So this is Daniel Bess. This guy was in season 1. He was a bad guy, but he turned out to be a really good guy in the end. He saved Kim, basically. Like, at the start, he was acting bad and being bad and doing bad things, but in the end, he saved Kim, and he was a hero, and you gotta love him for that. So big up Daniel Bess. Now, next we've got Colonel Dubaku. Can't remember his first name, right? Ike Dubaku. Yeah, I think it's Ike Dubaku. I don't ask me why, but when I was younger and I watched this, every time I heard this guy's name, or yeah, Colonel Ike Dubaku, every time I heard this guy's name, I would just for ages just go Dubaku. No idea why. It just kind of resonated. Like, would I be offended if someone in some other country went Connor? Maybe, but honestly, I don't care. But yes, so this guy was the terrorist in season 7, or a terrorist in season 7, and he didn't really do much for me. He was an okay character, not really the best terrorist there is, just okay. He did accomplish things, like he did do horrible things, but still not my favourite. Next, we've got Carla Matheson, the wife of Gary and the mother of Carla. Is it? No, it says Carla, the mother of Megan. She had an absolutely horrible time in this season of her being in it, but she did her job well. She did well, all other sorts. So good on Carla. Right, next we've got Arlo Glass. What a weird name again. So we got a Styles and a Glass. Right. So Arlo Glass was so this was one of the worst seasons again, but he did an alright job when he was in the story. So he did his job. Good on him. Right. This is Bridget. Right. Now, she was she was in season 1, I think. She was a lesbian, so she totally should go to Legend for that. No, I'm totally kidding. No, she was in a relationship with another terrorist. I think she was a terrorist. I think the two of them were terrorists together. So she played her role well. She did well with what she did, but she was in a relationship with this girl. We'll get to her eventually. But it's good when you've got a badass girl character. Next, we've got Anne. Come on, you know the name. Anne Pritchard. If you recognise this lady, I know her from The Santa Claus. She was the mum in The Santa Claus. She was also in The Santa Claus 2 and The Santa Claus 3. Or at least I think she was in The Santa Claus 2. I can't really remember. But yeah. So this is Anne Pritchard. In this, she was David Palmer's girlfriend once he was no longer together with his wife. But because of things that had happened in the past with her, that was kind of ruining David's campaign. And eventually Anne just gave up, in a sense. And it was really sad. It was sad for David and it was sad for her. But yeah. Next we got Mikhail Novakovic. Now, I thought this guy was like the president in season 5 or something, but that was somebody else. I can't really remember. He was a bad guy. That's all I know. I can't really remember much about this guy. That's why he's in okay. I know his face. I know he's bad. That's all I can remember, really. Next, we've got Anya. So this is Anya Suborov, the first lady to the Russian president, and she was only in it for 1 season and a bit, and she did her job well. She served her role. She was good friends with Martha Logan, and she was nice. Like, she totally did her job. Right. Next, we got a bad terrorist guy, Khalil Hassan. Right, Khalil Hassan. So this guy, there was something involving a kid or something, and then he ended up killing the kid's mum. So he was a really bad guy. I legitimately... Oh, I think I remember who the kid is now. Like, it took me a while, but the guy... He's around here somewhere. He's in this list somewhere. We'll get to him eventually. Well, he's in here somewhere. Or maybe he's down the bottom. I don't think he's down the bottom. Anyways, so he killed that person's mum, and then Jack was chasing him for a long time, and he just went pew. So things went wrong in that sense, but he did his job. He did a good job. Things again. Right. So this is Kevin Carroll. He's with Terry a lot of the time, and you totally think he's a good guy, and then he's not. But he plays it off so well. Like, you totally believe this guy's a good guy, and it's so sad how he's not. Because it's like, I've trusted you. But no, you don't. Jamie Farrell. Right. So another girl that's extremely attractive. I am so weird. I am so sorry. If you're like a friend, if you're like a fan of Friends, and then you're like, oh, I definitely have the hottest for Ross. Well, you cannot sit there and be like, oh. But yes. So this is Jamie Farrell, another bad girl, another bad person. She was a good character though. I think season 1. So like around this time, you had no idea Nina was bad. You were totally on Jamie's bad, but yeah, she was bad. Right. This is James Nafison. So he was a bad guy as well, but he was willing to sell out the bad guys, which ended up in him getting taken out in a sense. But I think he was working with Logan or something, and I can't really remember, but he was a good bad guy. Ahmed Amar, right? Ahmed Amar. He literally did that in the show. He was like, it's not Ahmed, it's Ahmed, right? So this guy, the actor who plays him, I've seen him in a couple of comedies here and there. Like, he was literally in a film, was it 30 Seconds Less or something? He's been in lots of things. But again, it's like, you don't, it's like with Freddie Prinze Jr. You don't expect to see this guy in something serious, and then here he is, and he's a terrorist. Like, he did a good job as being the terrorist, and then things went wrong for him, but he did a good job, and I have to say, like, as far as like a terrorist attack, around this time with this bit, like, it was one of the most shocking things that happened. It didn't really involve him, right? This is the guy that this guy's mum he killed, right? This is Andrew Page. So this is Andrew Page. He discovered something whilst hacking that linked to what was happening with a terrorist attack, and that's why he contacted Chloe. But because of that, he kept getting traced and tracked. But in the end, what happened? Jack was following him, and he was nearly not going to save him, but luckily in the end he saved him. So good up him. Now this is Colonel Juma. I don't know what the first name is, but it's something Juma. And this guy, again, is a terrorist that kind of accomplished something big. Like, he managed to do something really big, and good for him. Like, he did his job. But again, I don't really know too much about, like, whenever I think of 24 and I think of the bad guys, I don't instantly think, oh, Juma, he was definitely one of the biggest terrorists. But yeah, but it's General Benjamin, not Colonel. It's Benjamin Juma. It's Henry Powell, and Henry Powell, he was around the time of the Hellers, and, well, the Hellers, I say the Hellers, I mean James Heller and Audrey Raines, but Audrey Raines recognised him, and then he was like, he just did his role. He was kind of there. He didn't really do much outside of that. He kind of was there. Right, next is Elizabeth Nash, who had a thing with Alexis Drazen. So she was one of these people that had to go undercover and stop him, and she did a good job of that. Next, we've got, can I remember this guy's name off by heart? Singer. Is it Kyle? Kyle Singer. So, Kyle Singer, this is a total unfortunate story. His mum was not very well, so he found a way to make money, which was a bad way to make money, but it turned out that the way he was making money was actually a whole lot worse. Like, what he had was not what he thought he had, and things went bad, but it turned out nothing really happened. But the whole situation with that was good. Like, the whole part with him was good. Even though something terrible happened to Tony around this time, still the part with him was good. Evelyn Martin, again, just a person that played a role. She was Martha Logan's second, like, her helper, but something in the background. Again, it's their backstories that make them get the positions they've got, but in the background, she was having an awful time, and then something awful happened to her. But it was like, I just think of the scene where she's in a hotel, and then her daughter's there, and she's just in pain, and it's really sad because her daughter's, it's really sad. Right, next we've got Hamid Al-Zarian. So this is the brother to the guy I met, him right there. Wait, I didn't even show you. So him right there, this is his brother. So the two of them, or one of them was something bad or something. I don't remember much about him. So he's there. Next, Stephen Fry, but it's not actually Stephen Fry. It's the Prime Minister of Britain. There he is, Alistair Davies, or Davis. Yeah, so he served a role. I didn't really like him in a sense, but he did his role, so he's not going in, dang it. This is Eric Ritter next. So this was the season, my least favourite series ever, but he did a job, he did well. Yes. Next we got this is kind of a really funny terrorist in a sense, if that's even a thing. This is Dmitry Gridenko. So Dmitry Gridenko, he had got captured by CTU, and then he was willing to show them where Faid was. So this was around that time. But the funny thing was that he had a tracker on him, and he told Faid about it. But then, once they got rid of the tracker, they got into a busy bar, and then he pointed to Faid and said, "Oh my gosh, everybody, look, it's him, it's this." So he sold him out. That's what I find funny about him. He's like, he literally just wanted to have no ties, in a sense. He wanted to get away, he wanted to escape. Yes, so that's why he's here. Next, we've got another character that I'm a bit like, Just why? Um, when I look at this person, I'm reminded of Ugly Betty. Right, the old TV show. She's not Ugly Betty by any means. She's not that bad looking. I'm just saying she's like that sort of like. It's like Chloe is funny and doesn't mean to be funny. Janice Gold is like her replacement in a sense. Like she's trying to be funny. She's not funny at all. Like she's maybe like 3% funny. Chloe's like 8% funny, and Janice is like 3% funny. She's just another tech wizard that's trying to be funny. So I don't really like her for that sense, but she's okay, right? This love interest of Kim's, for once it's not Jack. This is Miguel. So without Miguel's help, Megan and Kim wouldn't have been safe. So it was good for him. He saved the day, but then in the end he had to let Kim go just because he didn't like how he had turned out, which is really sad because I'm pretty sure Kim wouldn't have minded. But he didn't let it go that far. He totally broke it off with her, which is really sad. Marika Donoso. So this is the love interest of Dubaku, but she obviously didn't know that his name was Dubaku, and she was another person that had to go undercover, and she did her job well. Next, we've got Lisa Miller. So Lisa Miller was a bad person, but not a bad person. Like, she was sleeping with a guy that was doing bad things, but she was also sleeping with the vice president at the same time, so she was a cheater, and she was bad for that reason. But when she found out about the guy that she'd been sleeping with that was doing bad things, she was totally upset, and it was totally good that she was upset. So she eventually got revenge and whatever. Next, we've got Anton Beresek, something. So he was the enemy behind an attack, and this was the attack where Derek tried to save Jack and everything went wrong. But I just remember this guy walking into this area that he was taking over, and he went, quiet. It was pretty funny. Funny is the wrong word. What's the word? Pretty memorable. But he's not a terrorist that really lasted long. Oh, he's also, I'm getting confused with CSI. That's why I'm thinking his name's Eric. His name was Eden in CSI. He was the brother to the person that Greg Sanders accidentally killed, which was really sad. Where is he at? Keith Palmer. Unusual. We don't usually get a lot of Keiths, but yes, this is Keith Palmer, and he was only in it for one season and a little bit, which was kind of sad because I would have liked him to come back. Like, if they make any more, maybe he could come back as the president. Or if we had enough Palmers in the White House. No. So, again, played a role, did well. Right, this is John Quinn. I don't remember much about him. He was a bad guy, that's all I can say. Next, we've got a guy who was a traitor. He was Jonathan Wallace, this is. But he teamed up with Jack briefly because he was getting captured, but then he was shooting, and then bad things happened to him, so good up him. Right, this is John Keeler. This is the President of the United States for one season, and I'm glad because I didn't really enjoy him as president. He ran against David Palmer, and he was trying to manipulate things. Like I said, he was bringing up things about Anne's past, and that was bad. Right, this is the daughter of Palmer. This is Nicole Palmer, and she was only in it for one season. She never came back. There was a big bad story about her. Not bad about her, it was a bad thing that had happened to her. Does that make sense? So it was really sad what had happened to her, but I don't understand why she didn't come back. Same with the son. Why did they not come back? Next, this is Oriol. This is the father of Claudia and the son, who we'll get to soon. So he did a job, he did well, he was in Mexico, and it was really sad because he barely knew what he was doing, or he felt threatened by Hector, so he had to do his job. Right, now this is Noah Daniels, played by Powers Booth, who sadly died a few years ago. But But Noah Daniels, this was a guy who I absolutely hated at the start. Like, I was like, I hate him. But then in the end, he kind of made things up, and he turned out to be an alright person. But this was the guy that got cheated by Lisa, and he did a good job. Right, next, Olivia Taylor. So this is the daughter of Alison and Henry, and she hated Olivia. She hated Alison. But then she made up things and did well. Now, here we go. This is a guy that was head of a tech group or something that Chloe was working for. This is Adrian Cross. He was an alright character. He played a role and he did his role well. Blah blah blah. This is there he is. Thank God, Mitch Anderson. Right. So this is Mitch Anderson. He did something horrible. He accomplished it. Good. This is Jane Saunders, the daughter of Stephen Saunders. She wasn't in it for very long, and she was angry when she was in it, but she did a good job. Blah blah blah. Good on her. Next, another bad guy. Right, Michael Amador. So Michael Amador, he was very posh, and like, he was never a good guy. Never a good guy, and he was good at being bad. Right, Jason Pillar, very close to Rod. So yes, Jason Pillar was in the White House. He wasn't a very good guy. I hated him. There he is. Right, so this is somebody I hated the minute I saw him, but then I ended up kind of liking him in the end. Like, at first he came across as a real pain, and then he changed towards the end. He became a good guy in the end. I know his name. I do know his name. I just can't. Mike Doyle. Right, so Mike Doyle was very, very mean to Nadia, but then he made amends in the end, and then something horrible happened to him, and he had to take Josh somewhere, and he totally wasn't behind it, but he still did it, and he was regretting it the minute he was doing it. Like, he wanted to save him, a lot of other stuff. Right, so that was Mike Doyle. This is the daughter of Erin Driscoll. This is Maya Driscoll, and this is the one that has schizophrenia. I have no idea if she actually has schizophrenia in real life. If she does, then great acting. If she doesn't, then great acting, because she totally was convincing as having schizophrenia. Right, next we've got Mandy. This is the terrorist that kept coming back, the lesbian girl thing with this girl up here, and she was a good evil girl. Next, we've got Lynn Kresge. Right, so this is Lynn Kresge, who works alongside Mike, and Mike they kind of have a lot of disagreements, and then something horrible happens to Lynn. But the thing that happens to Lynn that's bad is because of Terry, and whilst Lynn is getting in the ambulance, Terry's there holding her hand like it'll be alright, or no, was it Mike that did it? Either or, it was like, I don't remember, but Lynn knew about Terry's bad involvement, and Terry just stood there and took it. Right, this is Paula Schaefer. So she was in she was in season 2, I think it was, and a horrible thing happened to her, and so on and so forth. Reza Nair. So this was the fiance of Marie, and everybody thought he was the bad guy. Turned out to not be the big bad guy, but he played a good role. This is Safa, the guy in the shop. That's the same character as there. This is, come on, you know the name. Oh, Saeed Ali. He escapes quite a few times, but he did a good job of being terrorist. This is Steve Navarro. Right, so that's Steve Navarro. This is Senator Blaine Mayer. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just a dislikable character to begin with, but then he helped Jack, and he did a good job. He turned out to be a good guy. This is Stephen Wolf, or Spencer Wolf. He had a fling with Chloe. He was sort of a bad guy for a bit, but then he helped out in the end, and he wasn't actually a bad guy. This is Shari Rothenberg. She let Chloe get away with something. Chloe helped her out a bit, but she was sort of underlyingly annoying. Right, this is a bad guy, Mir Mehran, and then next to him is the brother of, I think his name is Sofros or something. No, Sergio. They are both bad guys, but they're good at being bad guys. Then it's one of the strangest characters of all, the first person the head of 24, very first season, Richard Walsh. He wasn't there for very long. He gave it to Jack, and it's just so weird. It's like a completely different show. It's like a pilot season, basically. It's so weird back then. Then it's Burke, or Rick Burke, yep. He's the torturer in 24. He does things to be able to get information out of them, and he does his job well. Next, it's Rosa Donoso, who totally knew that her sister's boyfriend was a bad guy, and she was right. Next is Zia Dakhilov. He did his job. He was weird. Next is Richard Heller. This is the son of James Heller, the brother of Audrey Raines. Again, he does his job, but he wasn't in it for very long, which is kind of sad because he kind of would be interested to have him in it again. But he got tortured, and it was kind of amazing what he came out with. But his dad was just so unimpressed by what he came out with. It was brave of him to come out with what he did, but he was getting tortured and people thought he was terrorist, and he wasn't. You have to watch to understand. Right, next is Zo Yong, who was a bad terrorist guy. Next is Yuri Suvorov, the Russian president who did a couple of things. He threatened greatly, a big threat, and didn't go through with it, which was good. Next is Walt Cummings, who did bad things in the White House, and people thought he was the main bad guy, but then it turned out to be Charles Logan, obviously, but still he was a bad guy. Now this is a guy I absolutely hated, but then kind of grew to like in the end. This is Tom Lennox. I totally hated this guy at first. And if you recognise him, he was in Ghostbusters 2, the actor that played him, and he was also in Mr. Bean's movie. But yeah. Next is Ulio Mutobo. This is the Prime Minister thingy of Africa, or some part. I can't remember what it's called. But yes, he did a role. He did well. Blah blah blah. This is Kerry. I can't remember her last name, but this is Kim Bauer's daughter. So Terry. So Terry's name lives on in Kim's daughter. She was just a girl that played a role. Next, we've got Tanya Wright, another beautiful girl who had the hots for David Palmer, and that kind of made things bad between them, so things went wrong there. And then it's Anne Pritchard's old husband, Ted, ex-husband. Bad things happened to him, but he comes clean in the end. And if you recognise him, he had a much major role in CSI. He was the sergeant that did bad things to Warwick Brown. Now we've got the last one, the dang it category. First person, absolutely hate her. What is her name? And I don't hate her because she's a female terrorist, because we got a lot of them way up the top. This is Margaret Al-Harazi, and absolutely hate her for multiple reasons. She's just very unlikable, and it's not because of what she does. I just hate her. The minute I saw her, I hated her. Her whole story, I hate her. And next is her daughter, who I hate even more. I hate them. I don't like them as terrorists. I don't like them as good people. I don't like them at all. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. No really big reason. Everything, the way they look, the way they talk, the way they move, the way they act, the way just everything. I hate them. So this is Simone Al-Harazi. Hate them. She's just, I nothing likable about them, in my opinion. I hate them. Right, I hate them. Next is Erica. So this is another bad girl. I don't like her very much either. Moving on. Right, this is another guy that I absolutely hate. He worked with Logan. He wanted to help Logan. Miles Papazian. Interesting name, but yes, hated him as well. He did bad things. Now this was like Kim Bauer's therapist, sort of boyfriend, husband sort of thing. Barry Lands, hated him. He annoyed Jack and he annoyed me. Right, this is This is a vice president, James Prescott. He went against David Palmer's wishes. He wanted to get rid of David Palmer. He was a nasty man, right? Next, this guy killed David Palmer. That's why he's down here. Conrad Haas, right? He also went after Chloe, so I hate him for that. Right, next, this is Hal Gardner. This is the vice president to Logan. For a while, people thought he was the bad guy. I just don't like him. Right, next, this is... See, I want to say Jeeves, but his name is Reeves or something. He's just one name, and it's like random. Don't like him. That's the reason he's there. Forbes was the guy. Okay, I'm gonna have to move on. This guy, just know that this guy was Audrey Rain's new husband. If I come across it, then I'll tell you what his name is. But right now, I'm not seeing it, and I want to move on. I hate him. Just know that I hate him. Oh, what is his name? No, I can't be spending the rest of this episode on his name. Like I said, if I find it, I'll tell you, but I hate him. Right, next is... This is Dan. Forget his second name right now, but this is first season, bad guy, just served a purpose. Right, next this is Sarah something. The thing I don't like about her is, well, she worked in CTU, but she just let off a bad steam, and then she was like, I want this stuff expunged. I want this. I totally get that, but in this series and in this, she was just annoying, and I didn't like her for that reason. Right, next we got Chief of Staff Mark Bordeaux was the guy, if you needed to know. The guy on phone's name is Ivan Urich. So he was nerve gas. He dealt with nerve gas. Didn't enjoy him that much. Next is Eric Rayburn. He was only in it for a little bit, and I didn't like him. Simple as that. Next we got another guy that was just a bad guy that did bad things. Jovan Majovic. Didn't like him. This is Kate Morgan. Now the weird thing about Kate Morgan is she looks exactly the same as Kate Warner, but she's not the same person. Even though they look identical, almost not the same person. Hate for that reason, because they're not the same person. Scott Borman. Scott Borman was a bad guy. He let off bad vibes. Hated him. Sean Hellinger. He was annoying. Didn't like him. Waleed Al-Rezani. It was just a side story in this season that didn't really serve much of a purpose, so for that reason, don't like him. And the reason I don't like him, what is his name? Again, I don't know what his name is, can't find him. I've got 4 more left, is it? Don't like him. Moving on. Just don't like him. He was in the worst season ever. Don't like him. Okay, we're just going to call him Mouthboy. Right, Draco Mouthboy. We don't like Draco Mouthboy. This is Posh Guy. Reminds me of Iron Man 2. Just a really bad guy in a suit. Rob Wise, that's what his name is. Don't like him. Moving on. Now we've got Reed Pollock. He did bad things to Wayne Palmer. Hated him, and then he also sold out Karen Hayes. That ruined her and Bill's relationship, so I hate him for that. And finally, the last one is Meredith Reed. Right, Meredith Reed. I don't like Meredith Reed. She just had a side story that was annoying. Hate her for that. And that's the end. Hope you enjoyed this. This was part 2. If you haven't seen part 2, part 1, go check it out. But thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.